Keeping safety front of mind is all about communication. Welcome to the Farm Safety Roundup, a podcast series focused on important conversations to help keep farmers, their families, and their workers safe. Farm Safety Roundup is brought to you by the agricultural team at Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. With today's timely topic, I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Let's get to it. I'm going to say something here that won't be a surprise to you, but agriculture is demanding. It's very demanding. And as the new year gets underway and you prep your equipment and you get your people trained up and you get ready for all the tasks that have to happen, you got to ask yourself, are you physically and mentally ready for the season ahead? You know, until recently, there was a lack of knowledge on mental health in the sector, but now lots of work is underway and resources are available more so than ever to provide supports for farm operators and their workers regarding their mental health. Today on the Farm Safety Roundup, we're going to talk to Kristin Hoffman. She is a health and safety consultant with Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. When she's not assisting operators with their health and safety processes, Kristin's favorite place is home amidst the livestock, especially her horses on the family farm. Kristin, welcome to the Farm Safety Roundup.
Thanks, Shaun.
Okay, today we're going to have a really important discussion. I guess, as a preamble. You know, so when we talk about health, we need to talk about our whole health, and mental health is really a part of that whole equation. And it's much less obvious and more difficult to recognize than, say, you know, if I get a scrape on my arm or something, it's like, hey, I'm hurt, right? Mental health is a little bit different. I guess in knowing that, it's also, though, important, just because we can't see it, so to speak, we cannot ignore it.
Absolutely. Really, we have a few different parts that make up our overall health, and each of those are important. Physical, as you mentioned, is the most obvious. We can see it and others can see it, which we believe makes it valid in comparison to some of those other parts, our mental health as one, social health as another. We don't see that on the outside of our body. It makes it a little more difficult to become valid to ourselves and others.
So I guess as we consider this topic, what do we consider to be normal? And how can we define normal? Because I could see how, you know, maybe I feel today from a mental health perspective. Some people would say, like, I don't feel very good. Or some people are like, you know, I feel great and way better than I do given today's circumstances. So what is normal and how do we define it?
Normal is going to have a different definition for every individual. It is different for each one of us. We each have different exposures in our lives that affect all of those different parts of our health. And if we consider our mental health as our emotional and psychological well-being, there will be different impacts or stressors in our experiences that are going to affect that level of normal. Mental health really is that state of well-being where each individual realizes their own potential and copes well, is able to do all of the things that they would do in a regular day. So, you know, work productively, accomplish all of the items on their reasonable to-do list, and make good contribution in the spaces where they are present.
So before we dive into some of the tactics to manage some of this, I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about talking about overall health as a three-legged stool. Talk about that.
That's such a great analogy, one of my favorites. If we imagine our overall health as that three-legged stool, so familiar in dairy operations and others within the sector, by design, a three-legged stool is sturdy, balanced, and supportive for the individual that is going to sit upon it. However, if any one of those legs were broken or unstable, then the design would be compromised, imbalanced, and in fact, those other two legs will have to work harder to maintain that individual that is sat upon it. So imagine our overall health, those three parts: mental health, physical health, and social health as one of each of the legs on that three-legged stool. If any one of those is compromised, the other parts are going to have to work even harder. If my physical health is impacted, I have a broken leg, there will be some effect upon my mental health and social health as a result. Similarly, if there is some impact on my social health, and we've certainly experienced that over the last handful of years, if we couldn't get out to meet and greet with the people who are important in our lives, that weighs heavy on our mind. It has a huge impact on our mental health and even our physical health as a result.
No, I think it's important, though, that we recognize that it's not about removing all stress from your life. Like, all stress is not bad stress, right?
Absolutely. You know, stress is both good and bad. It's a part of every individual and our everyday life. We need a little bit of stress to be productive and bring excitement within our days. That said, too high of a level or too long of exposure to stress is going to have some negative impact upon us. And that level of stress often becomes related to some impact on both our mental and physical health. We hear about heart disease and other illnesses that come about as a result of either that high level or that long duration of exposure to stress. But we do need a little bit to kind of light that fire beneath us, bring that excitement within each of our days.
Yeah, and we know this is no secret. Agriculture is demanding. There's stressful times, like other industries. We're not unique in that sense. A lot of industries and businesses have stressful times. Now, there's some data though out of the University of Guelph where they surveyed 1,132 farmers, and they found that 45% of producers, almost half of the respondents, self-identified as in a highly stressful category. Now, does that surprise you?
When we consider the stressors that are a part of the culture in agriculture, no, in a lot of ways, that does not surprise me. There is so much out of the control of the farmer within the sector that is simply a part of agriculture. So, you have a really good run of weather, stress levels are decent, but we know that is not often the way the season will go. There is so much out of the control of the farmer, and that's a lot to manage, certainly, which increases our stress levels. And within some of that research as well, beyond that general response of stress level, individuals even reported anxiety experiences, depression experiences related to their work within the sector. Again, those everyday chores that we have to do within agriculture, some of those within our control, and then the others that are not can make it really tough some of the days.
Is the fact that a lot of farmers are working alone an enabler there? Also, there's a lot of variables out of people's control, like you said, the weather, right?
Definitely. Weather is probably the most ideal example in that it is the worst example since it is out of our control. Working alone, the format of the work that we perform, the seasonality, when the sun shines, we make hay, is a literal statement in this sector as well. Financial pressures. Typically, we're running on somewhat thin lines within this sector as well when we consider the dollars and cents of it. And I'll say for my family and most of my exposure related to livestock, when you have responsibility to care for a living thing, and if there is illness, disease, or some impact to that living thing that you did not manage effectively, my goodness, it gives me a little bit of a shiver and pains my heart a little bit when we do consider some of the loss that occurs within the sector. Livestock as my example, but certainly even crop loss, where we're nurturing, growing up to that point that we can share out of the sector. And if there's a loss, we take some real personal responsibility for that.
Now, you can't go to a ag conference now without there being some session about mental health. And that was not the case, I don't know, 5, for sure not 10 years ago. Has the stigma changed? Have we eroded that stigma around this topic, or is it still very, very prevalent?
Yeah, it is prevalent, but we have made improvements, certainly. We are talking about it here. It is on the schedule at most conferences. And that's really the first step, is breaking that silence that we have had on the topic of mental health, especially within agriculture. Reducing stigma takes time and work, and it takes every one of us to do our part. So letting each other know that, it's not an awkward or taboo topic. Mental health is a part of our health, whether farmer or any other career that we've decided. And individually, we can do a lot to break that stigma within our own circles, at home, work, and every of those efforts are going to eventually erode it right down to zero.
Okay, so let's get practical here. I would like to hear some, we'll put it, tips and tricks from you when it comes to ways or things that we can keep in mind, because the growing season is fast approaching, and of course for livestock producers, they're in it every day of the week. So what are some of the things we can do to manage some of the stressors out there for not only ourselves, other members of our family, and also people that are working in our operations?
So I'll encourage us to keep this general theme in mind, to be positive and productive in any of these tips. If my suggestion to take a walk at the start or the end of the day is the absolute last thing you want to do because you don't like going for a walk, that might not be the most positive for you. But within these suggestions, I have no doubt that we can take away one or a few that might help to support ourselves or share with others. And that will be the first one, activity. Whether it is as simple as taking that time and space within your schedule to go for a walk, start of day, end of day, even better if it can be at some point throughout the day, rather than taking the all-terrain vehicle or truck across the farmyard, as it hopefully would be a not too terrible weather day. Take the few steps, get some fresh air, take that walk across the yard. Rest is the next complementing point. Doing our best to ensure we have the time and space within our schedule for sleep. Set yourself up well for an effective sleep. Right pillow, right mattress, right lighting, all of that good stuff really does have an impact on how well we will rest. Taking some time throughout the day as well to relax or rest, whether it is to take a moment to have that cup of tea, call a family member or a supplier that you have a good relationship with, just to break up some of the tasks that you might have been working at for long hours to that point in the day. Nutrition is a really important point too, which is a tough one, but reflect on what we put in our body is going to help in what we can put out in every of our days as well. Be sure that you've got a trusted individual or circle that you can air it out with, get it off your chest every so often if there are some of those challenges that you really just need to put into words. And sometimes getting it out of your mouth and mind into the air around you is going to truly lift a weight off of you as well. So whether that's, again, family member, friend, or otherwise, I would encourage you as well to have some involvement off farm, whether that's the 4-H organization in your area, perhaps it is coaching a team for family members or otherwise in your local center. Give yourself something other than the farm tasks to be responsible for as well. I mentioned that personal responsibility we take as farmers. It's nice to divide some of that accountability into other spaces as well. One of the most difficult but most important is to acknowledge and accept what is out of your control as a farmer. Things like weather that we have mentioned. If it is not in your control, what can we do to respond to the current state and move on forward, rather than wishing, hoping, and losing sleep, literally, perhaps, over some of those aspects in life that really are outside of our control. We can't do a thing about it. And I'll mention as well a recent caption I read through socials was get some natural light, which seems ironic within this sector. We're likely going to be outdoors as farmers, but if we happen to be out in the early morning, it's dark. Out in the late evening, it's dark. Be sure at some point during the day that we get a little bit of that vitamin D, that huge impact of natural light upon us, even if it is the few steps and minutes that we're taking on the walk from the barn to the house. Get out there.
Great stuff. So for practical, actionable tools and resources, including lists such as the Daily Chore, Handling Stress on the Farm, Understanding Stress, Its Impact, and Exploring Coping Methods, go to WSPS.ca/Farmsafety. Kristin, awesome job. Great thoughts and insights. Really appreciate you joining us here on the Farm Safety Roundup. All the best to you.
Thanks, Shaun. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been awesome.
With agricultural expertise to help keep farmers, their families, and their workers safe, Farm Safety Roundup is a podcast series produced by RealAgriculture with the team of ag specialists at Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. Go to the website WSPS.ca/farmsafety. There you're going to find free health and safety resources, and you'll also be able to check this episode's show notes for information on the topics discussed. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time to talk all things farm safety right here on the Farm Safety Roundup.